Okay.
Welcome to the Dick and Balls podcast, where today we're going to be discussing dicks, cocks, nutbags, and balls.
I thought I knew what you were going to say. I was ready to join in. All right, word, cool. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to get a robot-edited voice with that as our slogan or some shit.
One day.
But we're kicking it off. Scott wanted to bring up a topic from last week about character dynamics and what makes a meaningful dynamic.
Yeah, so last week I was talking about how I don't really understand what makes me invested in a character relationship and like what makes one emotional to me. And
Sure.
I think I figured it out.
Yep.
Which is kind of funny that I figured it out 1 week after we recorded it, because this has been bothering me for a while.
Forever.
This
We
has been
talked about
saying-
this.
yeah.
We talked about this pretty regularly.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this for a while, but I
Yeah.
think I finally figured it out. And I think really the only thing that makes me invested in a character relationship is just how well some mutual understanding between the two characters is shown.
Yep. I think that the is shown component is important there.
Yeah.
Like, if you have two characters who, I can think of a notable example that I don't want to spoil, but two characters who are, we just recorded this and I spoiled it and then we restarted.
Hell yeah.
Two characters who are twins and have complete and full understanding of each other. They literally feel the exact same way about everything. They will do things that seem completely ridiculous and insane to anybody else, but they understand exactly where the other one's coming from because they are each other.
Yeah.
But that's not really shown to be developed in any meaningful way. It's just kind of given.
Yeah,
It doesn't have that component of the dynamic, as you're saying.
That's the thing. Like, I think the process of the understanding almost has to be shown.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that almost ends up covering like a lot of what I was saying last time, where I see dynamics as being the degree to which their conflicts are founded within each other.
Yeah.
So if you're going to have two characters who are going to come to this mutual understanding about something key to the story that they're existing in, then it's going to be something rooted in the conflict as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some sort of... Because,
Yeah. And in doing that, you're going to find that like emotional detail and connection with the viewer that most people would think of as indicative of good dynamics.
The other thing I was thinking about in relationship to like this answer I found, other than a couple examples, which I'll bring up,
Sure.
is, well, I guess this is sort of an example, but this idea from episode 26 of Evangelion,
Okay.
where it mentions how we need others to define our shape.
Yes.
And
Okay.
I think that in having some sort of mutual understanding between two characters,
Yep.
we see both of them. We not only see both of their shapes, if you will, but also like how they view each other's shapes, and then like that further defines them as a character and develops them.
Okay, that makes sense. It's kind of like the water idea from Vagabond.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
How so? Yeah, making you explain
Yeah.
vagabond
No,
things.
I lost my train of thought now.
That's my favorite
yeah.
thing. That's my
Yeah.
favorite thing. I love.
Asking me how so out of the blue, and I'm just like,
Hell yeah.
I don't know, man.
I love when you're just like, vagabond. I'm just like, how?
Yeah. I'm just like, I don't want to explain
You're like,
Vagabond.
fuck
I
you,
hate explaining
man.
Vagabond.
It's just there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I think it's interesting because Evangelion is very much saying something about like just personal relationships.
Yeah.
But I think it almost does apply to art here and like character relationships. But in that, it's almost interesting because I tend to view that sort of like sketchy very literally, section in the last episode of Evangelion as being at least
literally
partially
a sketch. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
hell yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
As being a metaphor for like Anno's relationship to the show and how he's viewing like the increased realism of the characters' relationships in the show and how that like reflects his own mental state and like his own escapism.
Oh,
But in that idea almost, as the character relationships become better, they're becoming more realistic and we're understanding more about the characters. So it's like both about this idea of coming to some sort of mutual understanding, but also saying something about us.
Sure.
And of course, art's a reflection of life.
Yeah.
So I think that makes sense. Yeah. It's almost like...
The characters are becoming more human-like.
Yeah, it's almost like I feel like this is sort of a big part of what makes real-life relationships
Sure.
Like,
and it makes sense for
investable.
real life relationships and character relationships to be effectively the same thing.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're trying to do when you're writing a character, is writing a human feeling, realistic figure that's almost like somebody that you would know in your life.
Yeah, pretty
Because
much.
there's not much difference between maybe not somebody that you know and have a personal relationship with, but you hearing about another person in their life, in real life, somebody who exists, and a character, because you're hearing both of their stories.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think of most stories as being autobiographical, at least to some, or at least most good stories as being autobiographical.
Yeah.
So I usually look at a story as hearing about the author's life. So
Sure. It usually is.
yeah.
To some extent. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. So while thinking about this, I was just thinking about like examples because
I'm trying to think of what the hell I'm talking about, the water vagabond thing, because we were talking about it before, and I had my perspective, and I just cannot remember what the fuck it was.
that's why I asked.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think we have slightly different
Yeah.
perspectives on water and vagabond, so that's why I specifically wanted to hear what you meant. But
It's just one out of one ear. I don't know.
I mean, I do think that water in vagabond has a lot to do with like providing shape to it.
Yeah,
So I could see where you're.
that's
tying it
where
into.
that's where you like made me think of it from.
Yeah.
but
Some of the examples I was thinking of was like, there's some like weird relationships that work, and some like traditional relationships that don't work as well.
okay.
So in terms of like a weird relationship that I think like works very well is like Bojack and Diane, where
Yeah,
there's like, or like Don and Peggy even.
yeah. Well, they're both kind of foils, and
They very much understand each other.
yes.
That understanding is shown very well.
I think it's a big part of Bojack in that he knows that Diane sees all of his ugliness and is at least somewhat okay with it, so he feels a lot more comfortable around her than he does other people.
That's fair. And I mean, not sort of directly tying into this conversation, but I think it is interesting how, like, even with that, she is a constant challenge to who he is.
Yes.
Because he's almost like, I feel like he's almost always like looking for her to just completely accept him because
Yes.
she's like the closest and she just never does.
Yeah, he
Because-
wants her to be what you hate when characters are.
Yeah, pretty much. Basically, I just included that note to be like, yeah, it's not the worst thing ever.
Yes, that's fair. And then Diane is, she knows that Bojack understands her to some degree, and she sees Bojack as something to be afraid of. Bojack is almost like her worst outcome when she gives into her worst impulses.
Yep, that's
So it's almost the opposite of wanting to be completely accepted by him. She wants to be completely not him, but
Yeah.
she knows that she is to a large extent.
But their understanding is, I think, shown very well. And
Yes.
there is, I have an emotional attachment to their relationship.
Sure, me too.
But like, there's nothing like traditional that would like say that. I feel like
Yeah.
they're not. I mean, I guess they have like some fun together, but like
They're not really fun. No,
They don't have fun together.
They're not Todd and Mr. Peanut Butter.
No,
and
they
they're
don't-
fun as hell, but they don't have a good dynamic.
Yeah,
Yeah, they don't really advance each other's character at all.
not really.
Yeah.
But Bojack and Diane, on the other hand, like, they're not in a like typical relationship either.
Yeah,
Like, they're friends, but like they're weird. Like, it's weird that they're friends,
yeah,
but it works, and I think this is why.
sure.
Whereas I was also thinking about Oraragi and Senjukahara, which I really like. I do really like them, and I think that they do achieve this within like Bake, but they don't really build on it past that point. So I find myself being much less invested in their relationship as the series continues.
Fair.
Where they, spoiler for the first 5 episodes, they're boyfriend and girlfriend. They have great on-screen chemistry.
Sure.
There are all these different things, but they don't do this really.
Yeah,
And I don't find myself as invested in them, which is weird. And then there's also like Umineko, where you have like Battler and Beatrice, where I guess most people disagree, but like Beatrice never understands Battler. And Battler's process of understanding Beatrice is
I don't know how much
really
there is
bad.
to understand about Battler.
It's fair.
Yeah.
Battler, I mean, hey.
Yeah.
Battler's process of understanding Beatrice is really bad. It's not shown.
it's not shown
It's
on
not
screen.
shown, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I almost, not even I almost, I do have more of a connection with Ange and Beatrice.
For sure.
Because Ange's
100%.
process of understanding
They're a
Beatrice
lot better.
is shown.
Yeah.
And I'm more invested in them
Yeah.
emotionally.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I think I came to have some idea of what I was talking about, the Vagabond thing. So we were talking about how most people view water as formlessness in Vagabond, and
Yeah.
you were saying that you very much don't like that view. And then we were talking about how water is more, at least in my view, I think you said something different. Water is more of a like totality of who somebody is and like what they possibly can be. It's like the entire like flow of their being, but water is always shaped by its container. So I see water as both an expression of like what somebody's existence can be in its full form, but also something that needs to be given shape but not controlled, as if it's something that can be almost micromanaged.
Fair. I can see that.
Yeah. So in giving shape to water in Vagabond, you're almost doing the same thing with a relationship, but for yourself.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have a disagreement there, because I do think of farming as, like, obviously it's not solely expressed through water. He's
Yeah.
very much thinking about these things, but
Yes.
very much about providing your own shape to your water.
Yes.
And that is plot-wise what it's about. And
Yeah.
I think that
Yeah.
reflects what's going
That's exactly what's
on.
happening.
That's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, anytime I try to talk about Vagabond, I'm just like, I have all these things to say, and I have no idea how the fuck to put it in like a coherent thought. So I'm hoping whenever we do that reread, I'll be able to. I watched a video that kind of just went through the plot when I
Yeah.
was just on travel for work and kind of sitting in a restaurant by myself. I'm just watching a video that's just going through all of Vagabond, and I'm just sitting there like, Masashi's so emotional, man.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I'm excited for it.
Hell yeah. No, that'll be cool. Yeah, because I figured this idea out while writing the script for the Fate video. That is definitely coming.
Hell yeah.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
It'll happen.
Yeah.
I'm like at the final fight in it.
Nice.
So like there's not that much more.
Yeah, I feel like I could get the Bojack thing done too, because I got up through the end of season 4, so I just have to do 5 and 6. But I kind of just recently explained how I feel, or what I feel 6 says to
Yeah.
Hagen when we were discussing Don versus Bojack.
Gotcha.
So it's pretty fresh in my mind.
No?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but then the other example, since I talked about Bojack and Diane, I quickly mentioned Don and Peggy.
Yeah.
Don and Peggy.
Don and Peggy. Yeah.
Don and Peggy. I mean, I'm not done, but they very much have this like mutual understanding too, and like they barely talk.
Yeah. No, not at all.
They don't talk. They don't hang out.
Yeah.
They're a boss and like coworker. Like
Yes.
there's no reason, like there's no other reason for them to have an emotionally driven relationship, and yet they
Yeah.
do.
They're almost opposites. Like, I don't know if you saw my story where someone was talking about how Mad Men's core thesis is that women are able to adapt to change well and men are not.
Okay.
And I don't think that is the core thesis of Mad Men, but I do think that it is a component of it. And Don and Peggy, at least through the majority of the series, are probably the best expression of that, because Peggy is constantly forced to adapt to change because she lives in a world that is restrictive of her. Don has all the freedom in the world, but cannot deal with change.
Yeah.
So they're both facing similar conflicts, but in almost opposite ways.
Yeah.
They're almost
Interesting.
they're almost each seeing each other's strength and weakness, and in a grass is greener type of way.
I almost viewed it how you described Bojack and Diane.
Okay.
Where Don is Don, and he's got all
Hell
his issues, and he's exactly what you think he is.
Yes.
Whereas Peggy, I feel like especially in the beginning of the series, tries to be Don.
Yes.
And I feel like at the point I'm at in the series, I'm in season 5, by the way, she's almost like reflecting on that and like seeing Don and being like, is that me?
Yeah.
And to some extent, like, there are some shared aspects, and
Sure.
that is part of that mutual understanding.
Yeah.
But I feel like she's almost like, I don't want to be that, even though I have wanted to be that.
Yes. Yes.
Similarly, with Diane, I feel like she mentions as a kid she looked up to Bojack. And then that sort of twisted as she grew to
Yeah,
understand
you're right.
him.
It is pretty much the exact same thing in that way.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. But but I came to this conclusion while writing the Fate video, because I was like, why does Shiro and Sakura's dynamic work?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, I'm just like, they don't, like, yeah, they hang out sometimes, but like, they're just cooking when they're hanging out.
Oh, yeah.
They're just
Gotta
cooking.
cook.
They barely hang out in the other two routes. I'm like, he spends so much more time with Saber and Reen, but I don't give nearly as much of a shit about them.
That's fair.
And I think it works because they have this strange understanding of each other's trauma.
Yeah.
And like how they both deal with it.
Sure.
Even though they deal with it differently. But also, we'll save it for the video.
Fuck yeah.
Hell yeah.
That's it for the video.
Fuck yeah.
All right. Shall we move on to our next topic?
We can move on to the next topic. Which one would you want to go to?
I feel like the robot one will flow more into the other one
Okay.
than vice versa.